You are listening to the Nature's Premier Podcast, Episode 11. Here on the Nature's Premier Podcast, we talk about everything from bees to babies and sustainable living. Join us while we talk about natural parenting and different ways to live a more sustainable lifestyle for ourselves and our future generations to come. Now let's begin. Welcome back to the Nature's Premier Podcast. I am your host, Brooke Nichols, and I am so excited to be here with you guys. On today's episode, we are going to be chatting with Amity Hook-Sopko. She is the editor of Green Child magazine. It is an online resource for parents and natural parenting, and it is such an awesome, awesome magazine. Definitely check it out. Amity is the mother of two children, ages 12 and 15. She went from the corporate world in journalism to being a stay-at-home mom. Then after her second child was born, she jumped into the editing position at Green Child back in 2011. Amity is a very busy homeschooler. She is an avid reader and learner and an animal lover. Welcome to the show, Amity.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. So today, I know we had talked about talking about finding your mommy tribe. So before we begin, can you tell me a little bit about how you got started in Green Child magazine?
Sure. So part of that actually came from allowing myself to develop a tribe, sort of a community online. I had my background is in journalism, and I was in the corporate world for about 10 years, and I was still working when I had our first son. He's actually about to turn 16, so yeah, we're still dealing with the driving and all that. But I was working when I had him, and then I got pregnant with our second about 3 years later or so. And once he was born, really realized that working with two was a little more than I could handle. But I did have a great support system in place through my doula and some, local friends. And my husband and I, really looked at it and decided we could make the decision for me to stay home. So for about a year and a half, I was a stay-at-home mom, just fully focused on the kids. But once we got a little closer to the 2-year mark, I just really got that itch that I really needed to get back to working. And so I started doing freelance writing, and I did a blog on green gift giving, and started writing for Green Child magazine in I believe it was late 2010 or early 2011. And I kept writing for the magazine, and then some changes were taking place within Green Child. And then I was able to step in as the editor, and brought in a great friend, Amanda Hearn, who is from the Eco-Friendly Family blog. And I had met her online, and then we had met through some events. And she was able to come in and take over as creative director. And she and I really sort of had this vision for the magazine. And I just, she just does things beautifully. And so we've been, that was, like I said, that was a connection that I made through an online tribe, someone that we had met and then were able to meet in person. And we've been working together since then.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, you said, so you were a stay-at-home mom, and we talked earlier, you're also a homeschooler. So did you find it being a harder transition to, go from homeschooling and then into editing and kind of balancing the two out?
Well, we only started homeschooling. We moved we lived right outside of Lexington, Kentucky up until about 4 years ago. And my kids went to this amazing Montessori school on 6-acre farm with horses and goats and chickens. Oh, wow. And it was a wonderful experience. And then we moved to Florida, and we tried a Montessori school that wasn't accredited. It just wasn't the same. So I never intended to homeschool, but we just sort of evolved into it. It's worked out great for us, but yeah, it's not easy balancing that. So I am very lucky about a year and a half ago to have had my mother, who's a retired school teacher, move down so she can really help with a lot of the day-to-day things. And then as my oldest has kind of, gotten into high school, and things have changed there. There are so many resources for homeschooling. You can do virtual school through your state. You can do distance learning programs. So and we're also part of a wonderful co-op. So another tribe, another community that's really made it kind of doable for me with my work schedule. And, I travel a handful of times a year, and that's why it's just really important, as a mom or as any type of parent to be connected with other people that can help you out, and you can, reciprocate when you can for them.
Oh, yeah, totally. And it's funny that you say that about not intending to homeschool, because every homeschooler family that I know said the same thing. They're like, we had no idea we would be in this situation, but it's nice. And yes, in 2017, I mean, there's huge tribes for homeschooling. I mean, we're based on Long Island in New York, and there's like a giant homeschooling movement, huge movement. And I have a lot of friends who homeschool. So I definitely give you a lot of kudos, because it's a lot of juggling, but I think, there's so many benefits. So let's jump right into a tribe, and that would be a good segue, because, homeschooling, that is a whole tribe in itself. So, so like a new mom has baby, and let's say they don't have many mom friends, and they really want to like branch out and find more people that are in their situation. Maybe they're a stay-at-home mom, they're a work-at-home mom, maybe they're a single parent. Tell me a little bit about this mommy tribe movement.
Well, so we've been, for ages, we've been tribal people, and we lived in, small cultures, and even up until, just a few decades ago, many of us, and around the world, they still do in some places, lived in multi-generational households. So you were close to your family, and possibly the grandparents, lived with you. So when you had a baby, there were women in your family that would just help and clean and help cook or bring meals over, or maybe your mom lived with you and you had help. And today's mom is expected to do it all on her own. And I was just reading something the other day about a mom who came home, had a hospital birth, and came home from the hospital, and her husband had to go back to work, and this was her first baby, and they were all alone, and she just burst into tears. So I mean, it's really no surprise that, postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression is on the rise, because who can kind of, meet all of these criteria and this, stress that we place upon ourselves. So, I think it's relatively new that we have to try to do it all on our own. And it can be very isolating. You may think, well, I'm not doing a very good job at this. I'm not adjusting. So instead of reaching out for help, sometimes you can feel like shame or guilt about it and just retreat even further.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think we've probably all been there as moms. That even if it's not about this or that, it's about another thing. I felt like I was sort of getting the hang of everything fine, but with my first. He was born about almost 3 weeks early. It was just a really sleepy little baby and would never really latch on. And I thought I was doing the best thing by hiring a lactation consultant, but I was 25. I didn't really have like the knowing that, she's really not the best lactation consultant, because she wouldn't like touch me or really touch him. She would just say, well, now, if you just try to hold him this way, if you just try to do this, and, I learned the second time around, like, she was my doula, she was my lactation consultant. She basically did my first 2 or 3 feedings. I didn't touch myself. Like, I didn't touch anything. She just fed the baby from my breast, and it was like, okay, he knows how to do it, now let's teach you. And so, but that's exactly, what I needed after that first time. But I ended up, and since then I have found out that there are a lot of other mothers who ended up doing this. I felt like the biggest failure and the worst mother in the world, because I ended up pumping on the hospital grade pump and feeding it to him from a bottle, like that, because he would never latch on. And so, it was very isolating. I remember my next door neighbor she was formula feeding, and her baby she had a boy also. her first. He was about 3 months older than my son. And one night she called me and said, hey, my friend is over here and she breastfed her son for like 2 years. I bet she could help you. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm really tired. I don't feel like it, And so like there I was, like I could have had help. And instead I was so embarrassed that I was like isolating myself in my house. And I also could have had like mommy talk because they were fun, So,
oh, totally.
Yeah. So it's just, I look back on things like that. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, any mom that I can ever help to not do what I did in that situation would be so worth it, because you just, you should not isolate yourself. You should have a support system that helps you. And I certainly had people who were supportive in that, like, oh, not all people can breastfeed. It's okay. But to me, that wasn't good enough. That's not what I wanted. I went into it. I was like, I am going to breastfeed. These formula samples came in the mail and I was throwing them away because I didn't, I was going to do it. And so to me, for even my mom to say, it's okay, you really tried. That wasn't, that didn't make me feel any better. I mean, I was glad she didn't say you suck or anything.
Yeah, right.
But it didn't make me feel any better. And so I just think with really a better support system at that time, I would have been a lot happier. And honestly, I think, the baby probably would have been more settled because they pick up on everything. So,
no, it's very true. And to circle back what you said about, feeling like shamed, I mean, it's very true. And I was a young mother as well with my oldest, and I was going to breastfeed, and I did, but I wound up hurting myself and getting horrible mastitis, and I refused to take antibiotics. Like, it was crazy because I was being so stubborn, and I felt like I had no support system. And the hospital, some hospitals are great with helping nursing mothers, and others aren't as informative. So, I feel like I was almost shamed into, that I really wanted a nurse and I refused to give a bottle. I mean, there was like a whole big thing on that. If I had a couple girlfriends that were breastfeeding and they're like, no, listen, you have to get a doula, or not a doula, you have to get a lactation consultant. Like, this is okay. You can give your baby a bottle. Like, it was just, you read certain things and it's like, you want to do everything. You want to be like a superhero, but you're also human. And same thing with postpartum. I had very bad postpartum with my youngest, and I didn't want to talk about it because I felt embarrassed. And I feel like so many women don't, what was it, like 50,000 cases a year of postpartum are diagnosed, and people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. So I think it's really important finding your tribe in a lot of, different areas, for whether it be breastfeeding, whether it be, vaccinations, whether it be like, bed sharing, or, there's so many different topics. And I almost feel like everyone feels so judged and attacked that sometimes it's hard for them to open up. So I think finding a tribe that resonates with what you're doing is probably the best.
Yeah, I think so too. And sometimes it's hard to know, like, you go somewhere and, as a, probably if you are really into yoga and some natural living stuff, if you did, mommy and me yoga, I'm guessing you would find, your group, your people there. And then sometimes, there's like, once you have like a little toddler or preschooler, there's story time at your local library or something. And you may have to go a little bit out of if you're an introvert, you may have to go a little bit out of your shell and try to introduce yourself to other moms or see, and it's just like, I think we were talking earlier, you also may end up with, okay, I'm in the cloth diapering, so I want to find some other moms who do this because I'm sure they have some tips that can help me. I feel this way about vaccination, so I want to try to seek out these moms to say, well, do you vaccinate at all? Do you believe in a few of them, the ones that have been around a long time? Do you believe in a delayed schedule, or do you follow a delayed schedule? So yeah, I think you sort of end up, and even as your kids get older, if they have an activity or they play an instrument or play a sport or something that they do, you can usually kind of find those parents that think like you, sort of naturally gravitate toward one another. I know one time my kids were and I think it was the first baseball game of the year. And I usually would be the first one when they were little and you volunteer to bring snack. And I would try to be the first one so that snack wouldn't end up being Oreos and Gatorade.
Oh.
I mean, it still was. Let's be honest, it still was a lot of times. But at least if you were the first one, you could sort of set an example with like grapes or orange slices or something. And it's probably going to end up being like a bottle of water or something. But they all bring their water for the game in a bottle. I don't know. Anyway. But I remember one mom practically like chasing me out of there, and she was like, "I saw you had like honest kids." So we became friends and people who would sit together at games, because she just saw that and was like, "Oh, my people," But yeah, there are so many different ways that you can, if you pay attention, you can probably just organically find people who are like you. But if that's not working, or, you live in an area that there's not a lot of people who think like you, then, that's when it's a good time to, maybe go on the internet and look for, Facebook groups, and then try to see if you can, target. I think all of us are probably in a ton of Facebook groups.
Yeah.
But try to target locally and just see if there's something, close to you. I think, how many cities do like the great cloth diaper change? So,
True.
Even if, so when that comes around and you're like, oh, there's probably somebody there that's from my town or, from close to me, even if we have to drive a little way. To get there. Yeah, no, it's definitely true. It's,
that's actually a really good example. It's funny that you mentioned the baseball game and the woman running out, because one time I had my youngest in a Tula, like the Tula baby carriers, and someone screams at me from a car, "Tula in the wild," and I was like, "What?" And I turned around. I thought I was gonna get jumped. I was like, "Excuse me," and then she comes out of the car and she's like, "I love that print." And it's funny because we exchanged numbers and we're actually very good friends to this day. And I thought it was so funny because, like, Tula in the wild, I didn't even know what that was. I looked up online, and apparently when you see a Tula in like public, you scream that. But she gave me a heart attack, and I was like, oh my goodness, So it's funny because, and I'm happy she did that because she's really such a doll, and she babysits my daughter sometimes. Really, really fun, connect to have. But yeah, I definitely think it's really important. And, especially like the online groups, I think the bigger online groups, in my personal opinion, sometimes that can get a little skewed because, sometimes there could be a little bit of mommy shaming going on if it's just like a broad mommy group. So for me personally, like, I know I would pick like somewhere local, more naturally minded moms that won't judge me if I'm extended breastfeeding or something like that. You know what I mean? So I think that's a really good idea though. Now, are there any platforms that you guys recommend as part of Green Child Magazine? Do you guys have any kind of groups on your pages, or it's like just like the Instagram and the Facebook pages, right?
Right. We have it's Natural Parenting with Green Child Magazine on Facebook, which goes in and out of, being used and seen in the feed. I think, that's a thing with those groups. They they come and go as far as... the
algorithms kind of hide them sometimes.
Yes, thank you, Facebook.
Exactly.
But, so, yeah, we do have that, but I know I'm involved in some bigger baby wearing groups, even though I haven't worn a baby in 10 years, 9 years or something. And then some local baby wearing groups, which is great for me because if we need, for the magazine, we will do like every year, in October is International Baby Wearing Week. So we will do a photo shoot, and, it's great for me to have those resources, but I always end up making friends with those moms too. One of my really close local friends is also a photographer and just had her second baby, and she's wonderful. And I met her at one of those. We arranged a photo shoot from those moms, and then I was able to get all these carriers from the companies, and that was really fun for them. And we have a baby wearing educator on hand, and so even though I'm not really in that stage of life, I still was able to make a couple of really good friends. And then I find them also locally in some other like holistic living groups and that type of thing. So yeah, I also think meetup.com is can be useful, because those are, I think they're only local groups, right?
Yeah.
Something that arranges them in your area.
Yeah, meetup.com's a good way, especially I think if you're like, let's say you really are not local, like for example, like upstate New York, downstate it's very populated, but upstate, you'll be in an area with, like my aunt lives in an area where there's like 40 people in her town. Like I kid you not. And, like it's hard to find people local, but I think meetup.com is more utilized in certain areas because it might just be easier to find than like a Facebook page, unless they have a local page. So yeah, they have all sorts of baby groups and things like that. Now, what kind of advice would you give a new mom that, let's say, doesn't have a support system? Maybe they have family support system, but I find a lot of moms need other moms sometimes. Like you just need to go back and forth. You need the experience of being around someone else with kids. You can get advice and things like that. What would you tell a new mom that was looking to find her own tribe, and what kind of advice would you give her?
I would tell her to, one, just to be open for, just natural, organic ways of meeting people in the places you are. If you go to some type of, like a mommy and baby yoga class or something, if you go out on walks and just look for the other kids in strollers about your age and, about your child's age, that's one way to just really sort of, you may end up, especially if you're a mom who's been working and then you're home, you may end up meeting another mom that lives in your neighborhood or, lives in your building or something, who you never saw before because you're not coming and going on the same schedule. So I would say just be open to really organic ways. And if that's not working, but then also, one, if that's not working, or two, if you really, need some support, then just look up, go to meetup.com and look for local, whatever you're into, breastfeeding, baby wearing, cloth diapering, just any type of, even like, there's this woman, her name is Shanti Hodges, and she wrote this article about how she overcame her postpartum depression by joining her local hiking. They were baby wearing hikers, and she tells the story about the first time she was like, I'm probably not going to be able to hike very far. My baby's going to need a nurse. What if he has a blowout? All these like neurotic things that we all worry about. And that, she didn't even know, but like she had this amazing experience with it. And now she has a website called hikeitbaby.com, and they haven't looked at it in a while, but you can, at hikeitbaby.com, you can find groups. They have like local groups, so you could find your own baby and hiking group. So I think there are so many things out there like that if you're able to just look and then find those. I was reading recently that there's it was like a Today Show article about Tinder for moms or something. Yeah,
I was going to say that.
But it's like mom.co and a couple of other apps that will help you. So, I mean, I'm sort of like a half a generation past that feeling comfortable to me, but I'm sure lots of young moms would be great. That would be totally a win for them.
Yeah, it's kind of like mom dating. You're finding who your tribe is. You're taking interviews. It's interesting.
Which is awesome if that's your thing and you're able to find a friend. Because when I had just moved to a different city and had a kindergartner and a 2-year-old, and went on to a meetup group, and it was really just a moms. It wasn't really all that focus on natural parenting. But I went to a couple of things, and they weren't for me. But I met one mom who had a boy the same age as my youngest and a little baby, that was really fun to be able to hold her little baby girl. And we both, I think we were at one of the things, and we were like, these are not my people,
Yeah.
But we bonded with each other and became like best friends the whole time that I lived in that town. And it just, you never know, if you're just open and a lot of times, it helps to be able to, that kind of person who's really outgoing and able to meet other people, but you really don't have to be, because they just, your tribe is sort of as attracted to you as you are to them. And
yes.
Someone else might need you as much as you need them. And so you sort of have your way of finding these people. But I'd also say if you are having trouble, then, ask someone. I know you interviewed a doula recently. So if you use a doula or anybody that is in your wheelhouse already that probably knows other moms in your stage, lactation consultants, or someone like you with the cloth diapering service, like talk to people and just be like, hey, do you know anybody close to me who's in this range? I just got to find a mom friend to hang out with or whatever. And so you never know who may know someone that would be a perfect fit for you, or even an okay fit for you, which is what you need at some point,
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's funny that you say that because even even let's say my tribe, as small as it is, we're not all we might have a little bit of political differences. We may have dietary differences, but all in all, they're still part of my tribe. They give me support. We, we go back and forth. We talk about different things. I learn things. They learn things. So sometimes, in my opinion, I feel like your tribe wouldn't actually be a mirror image of you. And I think that's not something you should look for. You should just look for the support system and someone who has kind of the similar genre as you. If they're into natural parenting, but different types of natural parenting and that kind of stuff, So that's what I find. Sometimes opposites can attract in that regard, but you can still have the same type of hobbies and the same type of, just the philosophies around natural parenting. So it's really interesting. And it's putting yourself out there, or it's having people, connect you with networks. There's a lot of organizations, if you're really into natural parenting, like the Attachment Parenting League, baby wearing groups. Here in Long Island, we have a huge, a giant baby wearing group on Long Island that's very active. They have monthly meetings. So, things like that, I feel like that's probably the best to immerse yourselves in those kind of groups so you can meet your tribe. And even maybe you might only meet 2 people, but a tribe doesn't have to be 100,
Right. And sometimes it's better when it's smaller, or you enjoy the meetings of the big baby wearing group meetup once a month, but then the people you hang out with and the people you say, I have this, appointment or something, and could you just watch my one child while I take this one with me? That's just your one-on-one friend, or your couple little small group friends. And I think, as far as your whole group not being a mirror of you, it would be kind of boring if all of your friends thought the exact same thing as you. And also, what would you learn? What would you learn from them if they were, a mirror of you?
Exactly.
So I think so too. I think you want to just be open to what another mom can have to teach you, and open to the different, perspectives, because you may think when it comes to discipline, okay, I am going to raise my child this way. And then you see another mom do it a different way, and you're like, oh, well, actually, she doesn't seem like someone who's negotiating with a toddler right now.
Right.
I am. So.
Exactly. It's true, because I know I have met people that were very, very similar to me, and they're, not to say they're boring, but I get bored of myself. So I'm I need to, I would 5 minutes if I was in the room myself for more than that. I'm need somebody else. Come on, get out of here, So it's very interesting because, and also since I weld, I'm a welder as a hobbyist, so I like to weld things. So you'd see my tribe for my welding tribe, and people would never think I would be around these biker guys and welding and these girls and things. It's just very interesting. You get different perspectives everywhere you go. So it's really important. So pretty much the takeaway for this is to, put yourself out there more, join groups, join local groups that are having meetings, again, the baby wearing group in Long Island that has monthly, sometimes they have bi-weekly meetings. Even if you don't talk to anyone, if you're just around other people, baby wearing, you're around that parenting chaos, which is beautiful and goes way too fast, then it really does, it does really help out in my personal opinion. Now, can you tell us a little bit about, just to jump into Green Child Magazine? I've actually been following you guys personally for the last couple of years. If you look back at our Twitter. You guys post such awesome articles, really, really interesting stuff. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about the magazine and where they can, read it and when new editions come out?
Sure. So we have a website. It's greenchildmagazine.com. And we also produce 4 issues a year based on the seasons. And it's a digital magazine. So it's a free subscription, and you just, you read it on your screen, it's a little hard to read on a phone or on your laptop or your iPad. And we focus on really just a lot of different aspects of natural parenting. We try not to get, too
lost in the weeds with certain things.
Yes, yeah. We just want to. My main goal with it is really just to get parents to get back in touch with their instincts. So while we have some articles on, how to build a compost bin, things like that, my favorite articles are, the self-care articles for mom or dad, and I really like. We have a series from a writer named Kelly Bartlett on it's like gentle discipline, and it's just sort of like everybody kind of tuning out the chaos and really focusing in so that you can kind of hear your own inner voice, and you can raise a child to hear his or her own voice, and to be a critical thinker, to be someone who can take in information and discern, oh, this is right, or this is not right for me, or, that kind of thing. It's just, because I think that is what, there's a quote from Marianne Williamson that I'm going to mess up, but it's something about free-thinking mothers raise free-thinking children who will go on to be good humans, and they won't be duped by authority, but they will do good in the world. And so that's sort of, while you definitely find lots of recipes and lots of green living, tips and some very specific things. That's my favorite part, is the fact that we really try to talk about intentional parenting and conscious living, that type of thing.
Yeah, no, it's great. And it's funny too, because I just realized about a week ago, I'm like, I really only share Green Child Magazine articles. I was like, I have to really be more open and non-biased, but you guys post such great things. Yeah, especially the recipes, the non-discipline article. I mean, it's from a place of nurture and love. And, I've definitely read some things that I don't want to say made me feel attacked, but I definitely felt a little judged in certain articles, not you guys, but other, other platforms. So I, me personally, and with the diaper service, we try to be all inclusive. We try to just show different sides of certain things, especially with like you said, the composting. We share a lot about composting because we also offer a compost service. So we do a lot of different things with that, but we always try to share articles that are wholesome, that leave you with something to take away and utilize in your life. Whereas some articles would be oh, wow, I can't believe I've been doing that for the last year and a half, just things like that, but I think the magazine is fantastic, and you guys can be found on, what's your Instagram handle and Facebook?
Instagram is @GreenChildMag. Facebook is facebook.com/GreenChildMagazine. But I think Twitter is GreenChildMag, and I believe most of our handles are Pinterest, GreenChildMag. And
can families actually just go on the website and read it from there, or is it they have to enroll? I know you said it's a free resource, but do they need an account? How does that work?
Oh, yeah, you can read. You can just go to the website and read pretty much all of our articles. There are some columns that are only in the digital magazine, but there's a drop down menu with all of our back issues, so you can go in and look at that. But you'll see some of the same of the main articles, but lots of little contents. We have this great column called Look, Listen, Read, that's book recommendations or apps and that type of thing that I love, that we've still just never really found a great way to put it on the website. So it's really just in the magazine. Plus, we get a lot of, and I can brag about this because I don't do it. It's Amanda. We get a lot of compliments about how beautiful the magazine. She just really does a nice job of making it easy to read, and it's it really is beautiful to look at it that way versus, just scrolling down a website page, reading another article.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. And it really, I think that's why I read it so much, because it definitely like keeps your attention, you know what I mean? And again, like it's very non-judgmental, it's very informative. So definitely check them out at Green Child Magazine. Great content. Well, Amity, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to have talked with you. And yeah, we will definitely be sharing your content probably too much, but
well, we really appreciate it. And I love what you're doing. I was looking at your website and I didn't realize you had a compostable diaper service. That's amazing. I don't even know very much about that.
It's we're a little ahead of our time in that regard. We compost disposable diapers. So it's definitely a new thing. There's one other company in California that's been doing it for about 5 years. But yeah, I mean, you really have to be a hardcore environmentalist to put up with. We should be on dirty jobs, honestly.
You should submit yourself. So it's a non-toxic, like compostable diaper. That's what it is, right?
Yeah. It's not similar to, we can't mention like the big brands, but there's big disposable brands with certain chemicals in them that are very toxic for the environment. But these guys, they break down about 95% when they're put into a compost facility. So the only thing that doesn't break down is like the little tabs on them. But almost 100% of the diaper breaks down, and we bring it to a biosolids facility, and it gets turned within 3 months to soil to be used for like different like art projects and construction use. It's not used for any kind of agriculture, anything to do with food, but it does get put back into the ground, so your diapers turn to dirt in 3 months.
That's fascinating. We should do an article on that. This is all new information to me. My mind is blown. I love it.
Yeah, it's new, and you would think like big companies would do it. Hopefully one day they do, and that would be fantastic. But yeah, just shoot us an email. We'd love to be on.
That sounds great. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate what you're doing with the podcast and with the company.
Thank you so much, Amity. Well, I'd love to have you guys on again for a future episode talking about natural parenting. I'll definitely reach out.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That wraps up our interview with Amity of Green Child Magazine. Please do go on their Facebook page, check them out on Instagram, and definitely check out their website, greenchildmagazine.com. Really, really good content, you guys. Always learn something from it. It's just very wholesome, non-judgmental. They have great recipes, and we really, really enjoy being a reader of their magazine. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the Nature's Premier Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do rate, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends and family. It really does help get the message out to those people who can use this information. We really enjoy providing this content for you guys. So if you have any suggestions, maybe criticisms, or even ideas for future episodes, please feel free to email us at speaking@naturespremier.com. And again, for future episodes or looking to collab, email us at podcast@naturespremier.com. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in again. And until next week, we hope you guys have a wonderful day and week ahead of you. Take care, friends.